Hi there. How are you, Chris? Good. Take a deep breath. Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Okay, Brandon, if you and Andrew are ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone to our joint workshop meeting. We're grateful to have our COSAC members with us, always. I know that you guys requested this meeting, and so I'm going to kind of turn the time over to you and let you steer what information you want to share with us or what you need from us.
Great.
And if that's great, I'll just turn it right over to you.
Okay, sounds good. And we're aware of the items on the agenda, so I'm sure we'll be able to touch on each of those.
Is this meeting being, okay, as you speak, will you introduce yourself, just because you don't have nameplates in front of you? I mean, we know who you are.
Should I come up to the...
Maybe so, yeah. Yeah, I think the public...
Otherwise, they can't hear.
Those mics are powered up, aren't they?
Those microphones are working at me.
Oh, those are.
Yeah, there's microphones in front of you, so...
But they might not see his lovely face.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. We got to see your face. Okay.
I'm not sure how important that is, but...
Okay.
Chris Sands, I'm chair of the COSAC, so thank you for having us. And you're right, we've been asking for this meeting for a little while. And of course, the ordinance which established us also says we should get together, at least once a year and have an update. And so I did prepare a presentation that I sent to staff, a dozen slides, just a quick overview, summary of
Perfect.
Where we've been and how we got here, I think. And then there are a couple of slides that talk about the evaluation criteria that we're currently using. And so if it makes sense, I'll just take 10 minutes, go through these dozen slides. It'll give a quick overview, and then we can always go back and talk about each of these items or other items you want to discuss.
Sure.
With our time with you today. So thanks so much appreciate you helping get this set up and everything. So thank you. Let's see, what am I supposed to, just right click? Okay, awesome. All right, so just starting from the beginning, we had the election in November 2022, and for the open space bond, it ended up passing 55 to 45% roughly, and we're all familiar with why it was set up, and in order to protect scenic vistas, preserve open lands near valley gateways, trails and trail connectivity, maintain agriculture, waterways, and wildlife habitat. So that's kind of the fundamental, or I should say the foundation of the work that we do, as I'm sure you'll agree. So COSAC was formed by ordinance in February of 2023. The membership, the initial membership was appointed in April 2023. Fortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of turnover. We've only had a couple of members who have moved on, and others that have taken position from an ex officio position, for example, with Regan, onto the COSAC board. But we do have one vacant membership, and we've reminded the county executive of that fact, and we've also some time ago, many months ago, submitted various names to be considered.
Are any of these have terms on them, or is it just, this is the committee?
We serve 1-year terms, and for an unlimited number of terms is according to our ordinance. So
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And so you can see the current members, and the intent, of course, to provide a diversity of perspectives and knowledge about open space preservation and as well as the individual components of the bond language. And Keegan, of course, is our current county counsel after Catherine passed the torch, and which we're grateful for their service.
Chris, two quick things. One, it was asked earlier because there's some technical positions like trail-wise, this vacancy is an at-large, if I recall right.
Yeah, and I don't remember the various categories, but...
yeah, I think that one was at-large. And then, by the way, Justin Clausen, as an agricultural expert, it's been so valuable to us.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I don't think you spell his last name that way, do you?
Oh, I hope I didn't get it wrong, but it's possible I did. So, sorry about that.
Could be.
I think, yeah, you would know. Um, we've generally had monthly meetings on the first Monday, but we've supplemented that over the months, and we've got about 18 months of work behind us overall. So that's 38 meetings. That's about a meeting and a half per month, just FYI. Some months we meet a couple of times. I think the important thing, if you look at the lower right column, for 2025, we just had monthly meetings through April, and then May and June we didn't have any meetings. Of course, we're meeting with you here today, and so I think that's reflective of some of the things we want to talk about with the council. So I'll explain that a little bit more here. We're always working to understand our program in the context and other programs, and so as mentioned previously, we've looked to other communities and other programs that have successful open space acquisition programs, and refining our process as needed. So that's an important part, understanding what other programs are doing. We also look, go ahead.
Are a lot of those, I don't think they're quite as aggressive as what you guys are doing, are they?
In the case of like Summit County, they've had a program in place for a very long time now. It's very sophisticated, I would say, and probably highly more technical and outreach and that sort of thing than I think where we're at. But I'm proud of our all-volunteer program here and what we've been able to do over the last 18 months.
Raleigh is quite involved.
Yeah. So we're also always soliciting input and feedback from other programs that support open space projects, and so you can see this is sort of our list that we came up with of organizations we wanted to hear directly from. The top three we've heard from and met with on more than one occasion. The bottom list are still organizations we want to make sure and connect with as we have time. So we're reaching out to those programs because they represent other funding sources that can be paired with Cache County's program to really stretch those dollars. So this is kind of an overview of the program that we've developed and that we're currently utilizing. And so we won't dig into the details. They're kind of small to see here, but roughly what you can see is the left column, starting from left to right, is a pre-application phase, and then there's the first round phase and a second round phase, and that's where we'd like to see all of the applications come in, whether it's open space applications or trail easement applications.
The time for a project or a possible applicant to get through all of that?
Through all of that, in the end, to be honest with you, and to have a funded project, which we don't have one yet, right? Like everything's signed off on and the check has cleared the bank, that sort of thing. I think most organizations who would answer that question that have been through this process would say it's minimum of 2 years to get from beginning to.
Bottleneck?
What is the bottleneck?
Just acquiring partnership money.
Typically, that's what you're waiting on the longest. Our process, if we think of a couple of the examples that have been through both rounds, a matter of months to get to the point where council recommends for approval. Now, then it's the due diligence phase, and that's really, whether that's other funding or simply getting agreements in place and executing those and doing the required appraisal, so on and so forth. That's really where the bulk of time is. It's really not, COSAC that creates the time frame that fills up 2 years of space. Most of this work can be done within 6 months or less, I would say. So, Catherine, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if at the time that this process was created, I was the ex officio member on the COSAC, and the reason we did it in this way, the justification was we wanted to, the second round is where they had an expense. The applicant had to have some expense. So we wanted them to come and present to the council to kind of give the green light, the thumbs up, that this is a worthwhile project that we are likely to approve.
Yes.
And so, I mean, not to make it cumbersome, but also we don't want to have them go through the expense, because that there are expenses that are associated with the application. And so that's why it was not to make it slow, but also not to waste their money.
That's
to be
right.
mindful of them. And that's why we outlined it in this way.
Absolutely. And so the first round really, for applicants, is intended to not cost any money. It's a matter of time to fill out the application and provide the basic information. And some people, they've handwritten the application and that's it. It took them 10 minutes or something like that. Others have already partnered with funding organizations or conservation organizations and have a lot of time spent leading up to, the point when they submit. So we've seen quite the range of application types. But yeah, you're right. It shouldn't cost any money in the first round for folks.
So I have a question, Chris. Now that you guys have been through several of these applications and gone through this process,
Yes.
do you think it needs to be refined? Like, is there something that we could do to help you make it better? Or are you still feeling like we got this right and it's working? And like, at what point do you reevaluate that?
Yeah, my take on it is it's a good process, but I think there is a little bit of, wait and see, till once we know a project is completely done or multiple projects, I think we'll know better. But at least from my perspective, it's pretty simple and straightforward for folks.
Okay.
I'll just mention one thing. Brent Thomas with COSAC, that I feel like we spent a lot of time on the scoring system, months and months really, and that, the applicant gets a score at the first part of their prelim application, and they can have confidence really. If it's a highly scoring project, then they may have more confidence moving forward. And then when it hits the second round, after you guys review it, we score it again after there are updates. And so I'm really happy about that part of the application process.
I think you're gonna share the scoring process
Yeah.
later, but yeah, I just wanna say it's a good model of all the committees that we work with and stuff. Anytime there's these type of decisions, it's easy to have it be subjective, especially anything political in nature, but I think they've really done their due diligence to try and take some of the subjectivity out and make sure each one is evaluated on its own merits for a variety of factors.
And
Did you want to?
go ahead.
Yeah, I do think there's one hole that we kind of have found where things fall out of the process. And later on, if there's time, I'd like to share a proposal on that would fall in between the first and the second round that might simplify some things.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we've got applications and applicants that are in each of those phases right now. And just not very many, unfortunately. It was really busy at the beginning, and then it's kind of gotten quiet, so.
Wait, or just do it while we
I'd rather get through these if that's okay. So here's a quick summary of an application for open space funding. And so we got basic landowner contact information. Tell us a little bit about the property. What do you think are the benefits of the project? What's your willingness to allow for public access? Are you working with other organizations? So some pretty straightforward information on the open space part. And then as far as the scoring, so if somebody fills out that application, COSAC will actually arrange with the applicant to go and visit the site. And we always go to everyone that submits an application, we go to their property and see it in person. As part of the scoring process, we'll give a score, and then that kind of wraps up the round one process. So these are the components. I mean, we're really just taking them straight out of the bond language. And as you'll see here, we've weighted them all the same. We've said the public didn't really say one was more important than the other. And so we sort of and we went back and forth, you know, all kinds of different ways. Everybody had their own opinion on how the weighting should be, but this is where we ended up settling. And then the last 10%, if you will, are distinguishing factors about a project that folks would like to tell us about. So that's on the open space. And then on the trail, similar information. Typically, we're anticipating these are coming from a local government, so we want to understand more about the willingness of landowners to allow for the trail easement, those sorts of things. Tell us a little bit about the project, length of trail, what type of trail it is, parcels involved, landowners involved, what...
Their participation.
Yes, exactly. And then the additional information, as you can see there, we'd like to see a map, those sorts of things. So because this is just paying for easements, it's not paying for construction, so we also like to know a little bit about the project and its momentum for going forward into construction. And then the summaries of the scoring factors. Again, a variety of factors here, ultimately a score out of 100 points. You can see the various components from functionality, connectivity, safety, what are the benefits of the project, are there funding sources, those kinds of things. So I think we feel pretty good overall about the different items that we're scoring and how they're weighted. I would say so far we've had applications in both categories now that we're working through, but I think we're always interested in refining these and improving on them, you know, based on our experiences. And so, and of course your input. So definitely let us know when we get to more of a discussion if you feel like we're missing anything or should be weighting things differently. Again, this table, this is one of the last slides here. It's a summary of the projects that have come in to date. I know that staff has shared some of this information. I tried to simplify it a little bit here, but we have, you know, in terms of sequence, the applications that have come into us. And what I will say is that from February of 2024, when we opened the application process, okay, all of these came in within the first 6 months. So roughly February through early fall, all of these applications come in, and we haven't had any since then. And that's formal applications. What's not listed on here are folks who have come in for pre-application, and they've said, hey, I've got this 20 acres over here in North Logan that's completely surrounded by development. What do you think? That sort of thing. And sometimes folks just haven't moved on to an application process, the first round or anything like that. Anyway, these have at least made the application. Of course, we have Elkhorn Ranch, which is the furthest along. It has received round 2 approval and funding from the county. They're in the due diligence process now. The other funding sources for that project that is going to make that a successful project have all been confirmed. The federal funding, the state funding. And so that one will likely be, which is great, our first project to come to full completion. The second 2 there from the Cooper family, two applications. One was 20 acres right along the highway. The other was 160 acres up in Mount Sterling area. And you can see one of them we didn't recommend for approval at this time through phase 1. And then for the smaller parcel, we've talked to them about what, you know, to bring in more information, and we haven't heard back from them on the 20 acres. But that's a really important property, and Eric will probably talk more about that when he has his opportunity. We've got the Harris project, which has also received round 2 approval, and they are also in the due diligence phase. I would say on that one, I'm less familiar with the status on that one, but I think some of the outside funding could be in jeopardy on that one. So it remains to be seen if that one's going to be able to get fully funded.
So COSAC has not denied that one.
Not that I'm aware of. Mm-mm. Not the Harris one? No, we approved.
Was
we
that the
gave
one
second
along the
round.
river?
Yeah, up in Richmond.
Yep,
Cub River.
up our River.
River,
Yeah, it's right along Cub River. I went through both second round with the council.
We approved
Yeah.
it.
Yes. So one of the issues is I understand that has come up, and I mean, this is a great example of, you know, unforeseen circumstances, is that the federal funding sources, as they were doing due diligence on that property, they were like, oh, the Richmond sewer ponds are nearby. Oh, we don't like that, you know, all of a sudden. And so I know that that's just an example of a complication. There could be other things going on, but I don't think the project is dead. I think it's still moving forward. I think the question is the federal funding going to be there, or has it been pulled with some of the recent administrative efforts? So we've got the next one, Silva Farms project, round one approval. We haven't received the round two application from them yet, and so I'm not sure if that one's going to move forward or not. And then the last one there, they haven't moved to a formal submittal, but they did get through some pre-application meetings with us.
What is that one?
That one's in Providence, so it's north of the Furman property.
On
And
that
that-
same highway, on Highway 165?
Yeah, but it doesn't involve the lands along the highway. It's more of the, behind
Along the
some of the
river?
new commercial development and stuff like that that's happening through there. So, if I'm not mistaken. And then, on the bottom part is the trail application summary, and we've had the one that's been through round two, or round one, and then round two is pending, and so, Landis could probably, or Emily could chime in on status of that one, but I think that one is also likewise moving along in the due diligence phase. So that is kind of, and again, this list, I haven't included the cost information here and that sort of analysis, but happy to do that and share that, you know, as part of a future discussion. As appropriate, but suffice it to say, COSAC has processed a number of applications that represent funding that the council has approved or may be coming before the council. This list here is reflective of that, and of course, the council has also utilized funds for other projects that are not formally through this process as well, and so I didn't put any of that kind of information in this presentation, just focusing on COSAC stuff for now. Go ahead, David.
You mentioned a lot of these smaller parcels.
Yes.
A lot of those are surrounded by a lot of development
Yes. And they are in cities.
in cities, yeah.
Right. And so we've had several come before us, and so that's one of our questions is like, you know, it'd be nice to know your thoughts on that. We have our thoughts.
I just wonder with those kind of parcels, that these other types of funding, are they very friendly to those? I hate to say, I won't call them lost parcels,
Right.
but you know, the high pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Not likely. And this kind of touches on it. So some of the things we wanted to receive guidance, whether that's tonight or just going forward from the council, is a big thing for us. And we started that when we saw the applications sort of taper off towards the end of last year. We started as a committee really discussing, okay, let's start looking at areas that we would like to target, and we had ideas for promoting the program to, you know, because we didn't like it that nobody was submitting applications, right? And so we had some ideas. There was obviously the transition in council appointees for us. There's an election, all of this sort of stuff that's happening on the side, and so we've been a bit in limbo on some of these things because obviously we need feedback from you guys. We've thrown some ideas, brought some ideas forward, I think, through council representatives, and there's been some pushback on some of our ideas. And so I think if we can all agree that we should be doing something in terms of promotion, then we can talk about what those ideas are and what those items are. So haven't received any applications. We've skipped a couple of months for meetings because there wasn't much progress we could make. So we have areas of interest. We've worked with GIS and looked at different areas. And so we started to dig in on some of these things, but we really don't want to spend a whole lot more time on it unless there's support for pursuing or promoting, outreach to these landowners that, would logically meet the criteria really well. So there's that component. There's the small parcel funding. And as I've mentioned here, we've had a number of small parcel owners come in. Some seem like a lost cause, or more appropriate for a local funding program like within that city, for example. Others are in the county, they're right on the highway, and they're right in the middle of an important gateway, for example. And those we hate to see lost because we're likely the only funding source because they don't attract other funding sources or assistance, is the point there. We have some ideas. I think Eric has put a little presentation together of some, just some examples and kind of what we're struggling with in our discussions internally. And so again, that's another item we'd love some feedback on, and I'll just kind of leave it there and just jump to questions. And we can have Eric come up and talk about small parcels in particular, or we can answer questions that you have or suggestions you may have for us.
Why don't we have Eric give his presentation, and then that might bring out more questions. Do it all at the same time.
Can I plug in?
Yes.
I've got an HDMI there.
The cord is wrapping around us. Oh, it's right there.
Perfect. Eric, you listen on the COSAC committee. Looks like I can share this.
Drag it over to the other screen.
Okay, it looks like it's extended.
Okay.
Oh, but it's got it backwards. It's got my presentation screen over there. I think I will do the drag, and then, except I'll have no visual because my eyes are too old.
We'll hear you.
Let's see if I can do this here. It's doing it backwards. I don't know if you're going to be able to. It's
Are you on a Mac?
it's presenting on my screen as opposed to the other way around. That when I go into what?
When you do the presentation mode, there's a button that'll swap which screen is showing the notes and which one.
Okay, I'll bring it over here and then try it. Well.
Nice picture though.
I know.
Do you know where that's at? Oh,
Is it-
set up slideshow.
Is it in the Tetons?
What's that?
Is it in the Tetons?
You're talking the picture.
The picture.
I'd say,
We're distracted by.
Oh, another country.
I'd said Norway or.
Show without. Yeah.
I'm going with the Tetons. It's not like up there. I can't see them all.
Wind Rivers. Looks a lot like the Wind River.
Someone with eyes that can see over there.
Angie, which one were you saying? Which button?
Or is Emily?
Oh, Emily, sorry.
Display settings?
Display settings, right there, top, right there.
Good job, Catherine. You can
Thank
see-
you, Emily.
I can't see those.
Yeah, I can't see from this.
Swap, that top one, top one.
Okay,
There you go.
awesome. Okay. Takes a village. So I'm just going to show you an example. This is the Cooper. Chris, my memory was that that was approved at the
round two?
council level.
May have been.
Okay. Regardless, and I'm
I don't remember.
I don't think.
don't think so.
No.
Okay, and I'm not. I don't want to look at this.
Yeah, they never submitted the dollar amount or anything.
Yeah.
It came through the preliminary, like the first phase, and.
Okay.
I think round one and
Yeah.
haven't submitted for round two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I don't want to like talk about the merits of this one in particular. I want to use this as an example if that's okay. So the Cooper property is these two parcels right here. If I'm right,
Yes.
again, yeah. It's those two parcels, and he came in and presented, and where it's visible to many of us going in and out of the valley, it scored pretty high as an alternative. It also potentially opens the land between the pond and the highway.
Can you give us a frame of reference? I don't know.
Oh, okay. This is going as you come from Wellsville. It's just about where you're hitting everything in Wellsville, and there's a pivot on the west side of the road, and it's that pivot property.
Okay.
The Wellsville Reservoir.
That's the Wellsville Reservoir right there.
Park and ride is just south of here, right?
Yeah. Further south, you'd eventually hit the park and ride.
North,
And again.
right.
Again, I'm using this more as an example. You may say, well, this wouldn't be one that we'd want to present. But the thing is this could be one that you would want to preserve. And Bear River Land Conservancy has no interest in this, naturally. Lee Ray McAllister has no interest in this. Mr. Cooper came to, 5 meetings. He continuously hoping that there'd be some avenue. And it didn't make any sense with these land conservancies. Another example would be, and these people have not come, and Nolan, you probably know who this would be. This is just one past Mark Thompson's, I think 1 or 2 past Mark Thompson's. This piece of property, it's 12 acres. There's only one house on it.
Franz
That's
Kobiak?
across from the.
What's that?
Franz Kobiak's?
I don't know. But what it does do is it gives you a view into the valley
Yeah.
as you're coming by this. Again, there is no interest in a land conservancy to work with these particular people. And that's if they were to come to us, which we would be like, oh, wow, preserving scenic vistas. This is really preserving scenic vistas. So this is the small parcel proposal. An example is parcels from 10 to 30 acres that might fall in this. These projects don't meet the scope, again, of land conservancies and matching fund contributors, but they're often valuable to view sheds. And another one, and this just more came up because I think we were out that direction on surveying a property, or I think Justin brought this up to us actually. But as you're on the Hiram to Logan Highway, there's a spot that opens up there just as you come out of Hiram down the hill. If you look to your left, you see the Wellsvilles and all the green out there. I mean, it's quite a scenic view. But you can imagine if you put 4 industrial buildings there, that view's completely gone. So that might be one that would fit this, for example.
Talking just north of the storage area.
Yeah,
The
and
dip?
that-
yeah, right in the
where it
dip.
opens up and there's that little area and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back on to the
Yeah.
hill. Yeah,
I know who owns
I
that.
noticed that yesterday. I go, well, boy, it'd be
Yeah.
bad if all of a sudden.
yeah. They're small parcels and they don't make. So the proposal would be to allow COSAC to make a recommendation. You can imagine this between step 1 and step 2 that we had there, application phase 1 and application phase 2, to allow COSAC to make a recommendation to the council to offer, for the council to offer an independent of matching funds offer. And so that would be, we've got multiple scores and values that we've now offered. We've come up with a value that we offered to Furman, the Furman property. We've got the Harris property. Harris property scored lower, and we had a lower value, but it had some different attributes. So you can kind of see that there might...
It's 1/4 the cost of the...
Yeah, 1/4. But we could say, well, this kind of scores in between those two, and this one might have been 13,000 an acre, this one might have been 5,000 an acre, and this is kind of in between. So we would like to say to the council, we would recommend that we make an offer to Cooper, for example, the Cooper property, for example, for some value, and they're not going to get what they could get otherwise, but it would give them a decision-making because maybe they value really high that land staying open. And if they did and they got something out of it, then that might be a win. The Bear River Land Conservancy said they could hold the easement, so they could still hold the easement. The county would buy it and then they would hold it, and so it would have all the insurance protection and everything to preserve it.
And there are other local land conservancies that...
Yeah, sure. I'm using them as, yeah, thank you. And then but the process could also be used for larger parcels where they don't want to go through the big process of doing that. So the request is simply that we are able, within this framework we had of the multiple steps, that in that step say we would recommend, we might come to you and recommend the Cooper property, and we would recommend it at a value of $10,000 an acre to, and I came back to this just because when Mr. Cooper talked to us, he farms all the way to the upper properties as well, to the north of this. They're all on the same pivot, all on the same system. And he had expressed an interest that he'd like to buy out that landowner so that he was long-term farming that entire piece of property. Well, in that process, we could also say, if you picked up the additional property, you could use the money from both your property and what we would buy the easement for on the other to make an offer to him, and if that goes through, then we would fund you to buy the easement on the entire property, as an example. And we end up with 40 acres instead of 20 acres, so.
And it would double the frontage of the view right there.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't want to, I use these as an example. I don't necessarily want to debate the merit. I want to actually have you consider the merit of us making the proposal. Yeah, thanks.
There are numerous parcels similar to this.
Yeah.
All
Yes.
along these areas.
Yes.
Yeah.
That basically, if developed, would block.
Yes.
In other words, all that would be is just a highway with buildings.
And there's similar properties if you go north into Cove and Richmond.
As soon as you leave Smithfield.
Yeah. Yep.
Below the Vista Pro Mountain.
Question to clarify something.
Yes.
You said in Brandon Bell County White Planner, so you said that the Bear River Land Conservancy was not interested in holding easement on the Cooper project.
No,
They're not interested in running it through NRCS because they know it doesn't meet NRCS. It's not big enough
So
project.
the issue isn't them holding the easement.
It's them
Financing.
going,
It's capacity for them in securing funding for a project.
and then they need to make a certain amount of money on each project, and when it's 20 acres, there's nothing in there.
I like this idea, especially when you look at some of the big projects we've done and the value we've gotten for matching funds and other things. And so the thought that we could do some smaller things that don't have matching funds, I think is still a wise use of that money. right? I think we've got a good mix of both, and we've gotten really good value for the money we've spent so far. So that's my opinion.
I would
is that-
add that on these smaller projects too, I think, we're looking for a larger landowner donation or.
Yeah,
They're ending up, we've done 25%, and we're asking them to make a 75% contribution.
yeah.
Or whatever, 50/50,
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah,
length of
something.
the project is.
Yeah, I like that idea, and it'd be great for you guys to bring us some of those, so we can look at the merits of each one.
In this proposal, would COSAC come up with the negotiated amount?
We wouldn't
Or
negotiate, we would propose to
a
you.
proposed amount, excuse me.
Yeah, and it would be simply based on what we've proposed in the past and you've approved. Because you've approved amounts in the past for Harris and Furman. And so we can use those as a per acre baseline for this.
Eric, would you pre-score these too?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
figured.
it's
I know you
post,
didn't
it's
explicitly
post,
state
sorry,
that,
it's
but-
post scoring, and it's
round one.
after application round one.
So I have another question on this, and this is probably legal, but as I've talked with some landowners, those of us who are in farming because we love it and we grew up with it. That ability to pass that on is lessening, and plus the fact that a new farmer coming in can't even begin to buy equipment, let alone land. Plus at today's commodity prices, you're crazy to even think about it. So my question has been from others, they want to get it in and keep farming because it's a way to get some money to keep going, but as the inheritors come down, is there a possibility that somewhere down the road that they can buy back that conservancy from the county, pay back the county, and then the family take over that if they see something coming up? Does that make sense? Or should we consider it? Do you see what I mean?
You mean buying out the easement?
Yes.
I thought that was the whole point of.
I thought that was the whole point.
It's
Perpetuity.
forever and ever.
And I understand that, but there have been people who've asked me that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
forever
that's,
and ever is a
that's,
tough thing, and that's what's holding back the applications. And
sure,
so,
sure. I mean, I think the only thing we can say in that regard is you still own the underlying asset and can continue to farm it, but.
Well, it might be a diminished value. It still
Yeah.
has value.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
for
you can
sure.
still sell it even to
Right.
someone who else wants to
Absolutely.
farm it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, any of these properties can sell, and they have value because they have that, they're open at that point, but they don't have developmental.
From an inheritance standpoint, they're better off because of the tax consequences.
I wondered about that.
Consideration or mitigated by the fact that it has an easement on it.
This could,
well, I question that because inheritance, you get a stepped-up basis, but the stepped-up basis is going to be questioned as to the value of the conservancy district and what's mitigating around it.
Yeah.
If you get that. I mean, example, person just came to me and they're going through this process right now, and I talked to them about this, and they're like, well, we received a appraisal for some farm ground. The appraisal came in at $48,000 an acre.
As farm ground or as
Well,
developed?
guess what an appraisal comes in? The highest and most
Sure,
used.
sure.
So there isn't, so the family's sitting there saying, well, could, we put this in conservancy? I said, yeah, but there's no way you're gonna get 48. I said, and I don't think you're gonna get 48 even if you put it on the market because of zoning and everything else. And so that's what's led me to this thought.
Yeah.
At least it gets it open and maybe stays there, but if something changed, I'm just putting it out there.
Sure, and I think, it's a legitimate track for a landowner to go down. It's just not this program, right? It doesn't fit the legal criteria is what I would say.
Okay.
But isn't there more flexibility if the county is the only funder of it to write
I think so.
exceptions? in the
I mean.
easement? I mean,
sure.
the other funders won't do
You're
that.
bringing down the value that you're offering that landowner, such as the Cooper land right now. Plus he's got to come to the table with what, 25 or 30% of the value of
He
that?
doesn't have more.
He doesn't have to put any
You
money.
have to have the cash to do it.
No, but he's
Taking
giving up
less.
that.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
walking away from
It's
it.
I think we can all agree from a financial
Sacrifice.
standpoint, none of these projects make any sense, right?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, if you just look at it from a financial standpoint, right? But that's why it has to involve landowners who are interested in preserving those lands.
It's a legacy. It's an applicant that is interested in the legacy that
Yeah.
they're setting aside.
That's absolutely right.
And there's the ones that benefits or take the least out of it is when you get NRCS involved to get closer to the you're looking, let's just say it's 12,000 and 36,000 is the difference, right? That's what the conservation easement is valued at 36. So if we're paying 12 and then someone else comes in and does a substantial amount of the other portion, and then whatever the difference is, particularly if they have a lot of income, they're able to contribute that and get a deduction for it as well. So they'd recover 30% of that additional.
There's the double negative. Not many farmers are having that much income that need that.
They already get.
Well,
They already get enough.
it's the unique landowner that's got the land, but there's 5M Farms that I think 5M's owned by the Miller family, for example. That may be a different type of a.
True, very much true.
Do you think that there would be a lot of interest in this?
In this,
Yeah.
I think Mr. Cooper would have appreciated something, some sort of
Like a phone call to
Option.
him would say, hey, come back in, let's talk.
Yeah.
Why didn't the 160 work, the 160
Yeah.
acres up in the basin? Just as a question, because, I mean, Mr.
Right.
Cooper stated to me, he's like, if I get this money, I'm buying more farm ground.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Claire, you're time to retire.
Yeah, that's what his son was saying too.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I think the Mount Sterling property, it didn't score very high, and at the time, we were getting tons of applications. And I think there was probably a feeling that that's maybe a back burner project.
So can you come back and look
I
at it?
don't know why not.
Because vista-wise and wildlife, it scores high.
It's
there.
fantastic, right? But I think one of the holdups for some of the COSAC members, if not all, is just sort of like public access, the public access question, right? So it doesn't tick off on the scenic gateway and that sort of component, and so, but there, from a master planning perspective, there's trails in the vicinity and across that property that, conceptually go through that property. Not that anything is permanent that way, but.
And
So
Quite-
there was
quite
a
remote.
question there, and I think we got some.
It's
I
scored
think they
low on
expressed-
agricultural because I think you can only farm like a very small,
25% of it.
25%.
The rest of it's
160.
forested. It's fantastic wildlife habitat, don't get me wrong, but it's not on a gateway. So it's scored really well in some categories, not others. And I think it just priority-wise wasn't in a high priority location for COSAC. And so I don't think we said absolutely no, we just sort of said, let's see what other applications come in. Is that fair?
Dave was gonna say something.
Well, I know you brought up almost one of the largest hurdles that a lot of farmers and people in agriculture are not coming with applications, is that I will not allow people
Yeah,
on my operation while I am still farming.
yeah.
And that's huge.
But and we don't score that, that doesn't score that high. in our
Litigation and
business, yeah.
liability in those things. And, when
Sure.
you're out there still running it as an agriculture operation, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you guys come in and say, hey,
Yeah.
you've got to, not got to, but there is pressure to, just like on Elkhorn, they felt pressure to get come on, you got to have a trail through there. Give us a trail, give us a trail. And there's no way. And I sat there, I commended him saying, no, do not let public in on such a pristine area.
And it still scored highly, and
Yeah,
that was a
but
hard
I'm
no.
telling you, that's
It's a
out
hard no
there.
for him, and we understood
Out
why.
there, if you really want to get more applications, you need to maybe go out and you need to probably get with Farm Bureau, get with some of these organizations and really share with them saying, this is the process. Your application's not gonna be negated
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Say no.
And I think so,
You know.
so those are all great points, and I agree, I mean, it should be landowner driven. I think when we're using the and as Brent said, Elkhorn Ranch scored really well in all the other categories, and so it's been a highest score project so far.
With no public access.
Yeah, exactly. So it got zeros or close to zeros on that score, but again, it's only 15%. So when you look back on the Cooper Mount Sterling project, you know, not getting any points for being in a gateway or a scenic vista, right? So there's 30% automatically off the table. We were, I think, looking for ways to, you know, kind of lift that up, and public access was, you know, at least a discussion point. And they seemed open to it, although not like, yes, for sure, we're gonna do this, but yeah, we'll talk about it with you. And so I do feel like that we kind of put that more on a back burner, because it wasn't gonna score, you know, in the zone of some of the ones that have been through the second round.
I think the access, there are trails that are kind of on the border of the property, up
Yeah.
on the.
And he was okay with that, I
He was
think.
okay
Yeah,
with that,
yeah.
And I think that's the kind of public access that
Yeah.
I think the committee scores high on.
Yeah.
It's not that anybody can go hunt there or picnic or something like that, but coordinating with trails or maybe getting access through the property somehow to public land or something. So it's a minimum amount of acres. And I would say too, it's not a hard yes or no, or it's not a deal breaker, but it might affect the percentage that the county would want to fund. Where if there is public access, the county might want to fund a higher percentage.
Well, Harris, I think, is an interesting example because it's not visible where it's at. It's kind of down in there. But he's like, oh, throw something along the Cub River for people to walk along the Cub River. It's not on his farmland, right? It's not out on his farmland. It was over to the side. And that for us was, you know, it wouldn't have been a deal breaker one way or the other, but it was definitely boy, that checks a whole new box when it's on a master plan to put a walkway along the Cub River, and the Lewiston people were excited about it, and the Richmond people were excited about it. That was a win-win.
And a potential trailhead at the south end.
Yeah, with the Lewiston, I mean with Richmond's property on the one end.
I'll just say, I think, you know, Cooper is a good example of one, you know, we have potential to circle back with them and open that discussion again and see where it goes. So
It's a piece of property too, that the majority of it's gorgeous, it's amazing, but the majority of the people in Cache County would never see it, would never be able to appreciate it.
Which one are you reaching?
The South Cooper.
160
Oh, the
miles.
South Cooper. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is typically with any kind of public initiative, you have a few different factors. You have like public support, you have participation, awareness, and funding. And usually funding is the hard part. Usually there's a plethora of ideas and support for those ideas, but it seems like in the case here, like we have the funding and we have the system in place. We have public support because people have expressed interest in wanting open spaces. We're lacking participation, but I think as you guys have identified, there's a lack of awareness. And I know there's some challenges that we talked about as a council, and there's a little bit of hesitation to fund an awareness campaign of something where we want to announce that we're giving away money, so we want to spend money to tell, and I get that on principle. And I know the other concern that the council expressed that I relate to COSAC was we don't necessarily want to be selective if we're spending taxpayer money on, you know, just
Recruiting
making certain
specific.
people aware, but at the same time, there are certain parcels that qualify and there are a lot that don't. You know, I live in the middle of Logan and mine doesn't qualify, so I am excluded by nature, but not because it's discriminatory inherently. It's just because we don't qualify. So I wonder what, and I think you're probably seeking input from the council on how much are we willing to invest in being proactive about either pre-scoring a property that hasn't even applied or sending a postcard to someone whose property would be a good fit. And I think that the real question is, does that fall outside of taxpayer desires who voted for this program in order to preserve open spaces? Does that still give them what they want, and could we justify that? So I would like to have that discussion, whether it's right now or at another time, because I think that's important for you guys to have some clarification and guidance on. And I think the other thing I want to get on the record, because I know there was some public hesitation of a program like this, have we already pre-identified people that we're going to preserve their property anyway, and this is just a money grab? So we have it on the record. Can you answer the question of, have you seen that in the application? Is there any indicator that there were pre-identified properties that are getting their, hands on taxpayer money?
No, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to get that out there, and so that way, if we approach other people, I do want it to be in the context of, this isn't, the council's friends are, or, your friends who own property are, now they can finally get money because they know someone in government. That's not what we're after. Like, the scoring process is as objective as it can be, and we're looking for this for the sake of all citizens in the county, and the sake of having views like you talked about when you're driving through Hiram or coming into from Sardine Canyon, to preserve that, right?
And Keegan, if I can make to your point, I get accused of being on COSAC of not doing my job as they watch the gateway fill up right now. Like, what are you guys doing? I see for sale signs going up all over the time. It would be one thing if those for sale signs talk to us in some way, but they're not, and we're not sure we can talk to them, what.
Right.
And that's along that gateway. So we sold it as, this is a way to keep it from being like driving into Salt Lake Valley and having everything blocked from end to end.
Right.
And we're not doing a very good job.
Here's my fear as a COSAC member. My greatest fear right now, we have the program, we have the funds. If people aren't aware of the program, are we quote unquote wasting the money paying for a parcel that maybe wouldn't score as highly as one of these perfectly scoring parcels, just for lack of awareness from the property owner? So how can we as COSAC or you as a council more fully instruct the public on the program?
It's great the enemy of good in some cases. Yeah.
And in fact, that was done. Bridle Path wasn't aware of this, and Bridle Path was approached, right?
But haven't you done that? I mean, I'm a landowner. I got 2 letters from COSAC about this program.
COSAC's never sent out a letter.
We've never
Wait a
been.
minute.
Yeah, who'd you get a letter from?
2 letters.
Bear River Land Conservancy?
Nope.
These are just.
Exhibit A, Nolan, where
We
is
would
it?
have had to approve that.
We're aware.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, no, we're aware of a citizen group that was doing that.
Okay, then it must have been them, because in that letter, here's the fight. It said I could receive up to $13,000 per acre, and then, it was just an estimate saying, are you considering this? And then this particular family who is dealing with inheritance and everything else gets an appraiser for $48,000 or so an acre of farm ground. I mean, throw that $13,000 away, and I'm shopping this other way. So somebody sent 2 letters to me,
Right.
asking me, telling me about COSAC and participating in that.
Which is, we would like to take control of the
Narrative.
promotion of the program and stuff like that.
But without any council appropriation, that kind of ties your hands, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
it,
it's not just that, because fundamentally, we're talking about a few $100s, right? To mail out a letter or
Have you estimated the
yeah,
approximate number of eligible properties?
we have. So for example, I'll just use an example because, if we're talking about like targeting specific areas of the county, the COSAC has done as much as looked at each of the major gateways, and we have a map that, has a blob, at each of the gateways, and we've pulled up, the parcel information for those areas, and we can, depending on the gateway, there's interesting aspects to it, right? The one north Up north of Richmond, for example, you're talking about 5 landowners who own almost the entire landscape there. And so from a strategy perspective, open space planning, I mean, that's a great scenario.
It is still all open.
It's all still open, it's very
Big chunks,
productive.
Big chunks that are
It
still
has
open.
other benefits, not just
They're
farmland.
almost
But
essential.
yeah. So we've looked at each of those. The main gateway into Cache Valley from the southeast or southwest through Sardine Canyon or whatever. Quite a few more landowners, but not 300 landowners. More like 30 landowners. And so if you look at the criteria and a couple of major components, and you said, okay, where are these areas? We've done that. And so I think we're looking for the council's blessing on the best way to do program promotion. We like the idea of targeting landowners in those areas, again, just kind of a big circle that we draw around an area, and just as a start.
As
And see if it brings in at least more applications or interest. So there may be some inherent biases in that regard that you guys feel. So definitely let us know. But
I think the original concern was what Keegan said, that we wanted to avoid the appearance of we are taking this money that everyone is going to pay into, and we're going to make sure that we control who gets access to it. And I think that we've gone, in addressing that concern, then we've tied you guys' hands to where we're not getting the ability to spend the money that the public wanted us to spend, and they're going to accuse you of what are you doing? So this is what I'm thinking as we're talking. If you let's give you the green light to bring us a proposal that says we want to target these 85, not specifically who they are, but the number. This is how many we want to target. We've identified these areas. This is what we think it would cost, and maybe even have Keegan present that at a council meeting.
Yeah.
Let us vote on it, but as soon as possible, and then let's move forward. I think that's what I'm thinking, and you guys can all give your opinion differently, but I think that maybe will get us moving in the right direction.
I think
I'd
awareness
like to add
is,
that, can we say if, for instance, Cooper, nobody had interest in it? At first, I would like to see that we find viable land sizes that we do get on NRCS, and those others who are willing to participate
Yeah.
start there first.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I agree.
we've in our blobs, right, that we draw, we've said everything 20 acres and larger, for example.
And what we're talking about there are just the one criteria out of 5 that's the immediate gateway properties. Because they are definitely limited. You qualify, you're there or you're not. But there are 4 other categories, the vistas and all of that, where I think you're right. We don't want to go out and pick out the vista we think is the prettiest. But that could be promoted more generally, just by general notification. Here's, the bond was approved, here are the categories, here are some criteria, here's some weighting. Maybe consider your property, even if it's not in the gateway. That's just one of 5 or 6 categories.
Yeah, I think we've talked about the direct mailing idea, right? We've talked about let's organize a public workshop where we can invite the public to come in and learn more about the program and stuff like that. So that's everybody, right? And that's just advertising and media and that sort of thing. I know the executive has suggested that he and I write a letter to the editor, a joint letter to the editor promoting. So there's other things than just direct mailings, but you can understand why we're sort of stuck on the direct mailings as one of an important number of promotional programs that we'd like to be able to have your guidance and blessing on.
Yeah, I think the letter to editor is good. I think a radio interview would, just to remind people about it, would be good. And I think we can ratchet this up in steps too. Like maybe first we inform the landowners, then second, maybe we even go ahead and preemptively score it and say, if you were to apply, your score would be this. So that maybe takes some of the fear out of it. And then maybe there's even a step 3 where the council says, this is how much it would be worth to us. This is how much money you could probably get for this, give or take, right? It's not a promise, but then.
I don't like putting the
Yeah,
value on
I
that.
hate to do
Tight
that
hands.
yet.
I feel like that's
Well,
tight
it's
hands.
still,
But-
we're talking
yeah.
about
But-
ratcheting up in levels, and that would be
Yeah.
DEFCON 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think we'll start at the foundation, but I think there's room to at least do that initial.
Yeah, and I know we've been hesitant in the past, so bring us an actual proposal and let's move.
I know there are parcels that
Never
are
get a
actually,
chance to see.
could be very strategic to get, because they would have an impact on the other parcels behind them.
Yeah, and we would love, like,
Could slow possibly some growth and start creating, you know, even some borders that kind of keep those vistas and everything open.
Yeah.
There are quite a few.
Catherine wants to speak.
Yeah, thank you. We have recent legislation that the Utah State Legislature's passed that does the rollback taxes that are now going to be for preserving open space. Have we designated that will be used with COSAC, that those, and do we have to designate? I don't know.
It has to be used with
We
some kind of
okay.
open
It has
space
to be.
So
preservation.
that funding will come through COSAC in a similar manner that we already have designated, right?
So we will have, I think last year was, it was about $150,000 or $200,000, give or take. So that money could be available to help fund some of these projects as well, so.
is that, in our language, we said it could be easements or acquisition. Is it the same in this, that it can be a conservation easement?
I'll have to check with the treasurer.
It's fairly wide what.
I
it
thought
can
so.
be.
Yeah,
So I
it's just
wanted to
open
make-
space.
It was
And
quite
it-
open.
And
Yeah.
the number of years you have to actually spend it.
So we'll
Yeah.
be able
you
to
could
draw on those
accrue
same
2 or
funds
3
using the
years
same
of it
process.
Collectively put together and
Yeah.
get a bigger project.
So I'm just saying, we have more funds available
Yeah.
to
But
us.
if
So
you
let's
don't
get the
use
word
it-
out to as many people as we
Yeah.
can.
If you don't use it, then it goes right back.
Yeah,
to
we
the
can send it
state.
back to the state if we
What
don't.
is-
if we
And
in
your
don't-
what amount of
legislators
time?
will spend
5
it
years.
wisely.
No, did they say it to 10? They started out with 5. I think maybe they settled on 10 years. But
7, wasn't it? I'm
7
serious.
is impact
Yeah.
impact
Yep,
fees.
it
Do they
was
do the
7.
same as
Yeah,
impact fees?
I thought
Okay,
it
so
was
7
7.
is impact fees.
And that was agenda item 4, more or less, right? Have we covered all the other agenda items? Because I know we're coming up on.
What I was gonna say, I think we should just touch on briefly, so maybe an outstanding item. When the bond gets set up, right, and you do a tranche from a release of funds from the total, right? There are some reasonable time limitations, right? I think this is the other thing we're feeling pressure on, is we've got a 20-year horizon. You don't spend that $20 million over 20 years, right? You really typically are gonna spend that money in the first 5 or 6 years.
I think state mandate is that it has to be 6, doesn't it?
There are some regulations I don't purport to know
Like
them
when a
by
bond passes.
heart or anything like that, but
Yeah.
I think there probably are some deadlines or guidance out there that we should try and be aware of jointly.
In other words, the bond has to be used for what it was purposely passed for.
Yeah.
And
And
if
sooner.
you don't, then there are
There's
fees.
penalties, yeah.
They start penalties.
Sooner rather than
and
later.
Against it.
let's check on that and see what the
I think
deadlines
that
are.
would be good, for the council to dig into that, at least try and understand, because I know I've worked with other local governments on municipal bond kinds of things, and, there's been panicked phone calls from time to time, and like, oh my gosh, we gotta, spend this money right away, sort of thing, so.
Yeah, we asked Zion Bank this when we were having those meetings, and 6 years or something sounded is what I'm recalling from the time the bond passes.
Really? That we have to spend all 20
I didn't-
million, even though it was a 20-year?
Well, the bond is for 20, in other words, it's
Oh, the
like,
I don't think you
Payment.
had to have
Yeah.
it all spent. I think it's just.
it'd be worth asking.
Yeah, it
Yes.
really would. I thought it was a withdrawal, and then as soon as you
Because-
withdraw, you've got so much time you've got to get that.
Because it's a
activated.
20-year mortgage, so to speak, right? I mean,
The other thing associated with that is all the for sale signs out there, right? So there's pressure for, like, we need to be
Proactive.
in a hurry now, proactive. before it's too late in some of these areas, and we're regretting some of that we're seeing happen before our eyes now. So if we can, ramp up the process to happen sooner than later, I think that's benefit everyone.
For those that have been around longer involved than me, have we talked about transferable development rights at any point as a?
We don't have
Nolan and I went to a meeting about that. We weren't
We
impressed.
don't have it as an ordinance in our books.
Yeah,
There are some issues on TDRs that I've been
Yeah.
scared of.
yeah.
And then I could talk to you a long time about it as a planner by profession. I'm familiar with the program, and it was Tim Watkins, who used to work as planner here in the county, and is a big proponent of TDRs and prepared many a presentation. And it is a tool. It's a tool that should be used in Cache County. For me personally, or maybe professionally, the economics here in Cache County make that a difficult program to make a lot of progress in, is what I would say. When you, like, if we were Summit County, for example, or even like Ogden Valley, where land values are significant, the TDR program has much more momentum and interest, I think, in function in those kinds of scenarios. And we're not quite there. Not to say that it can't happen. It should be considered as a potential tool. But I think purchase of development rights, the PDR program that we have now, is going to be our most effective tool. So I'm excited.
Well, thank you for everything you guys do, and we appreciate, this is good dialogue, and please let us know what else we can do to support what you're doing. And
We'll work and plan to come back to the council with some ideas we have on promotion.
Okay.
Based on what you've recommended.
and
Thanks for all your time, guys.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is now a good time though to pre-apologize? For all of there are opportunities that have come to us and we've had to move on. And we couldn't take them through that whole
Is it
process.
pre-apologize or post-apologize?
Sorry, I had to find
We're
out
not,
after the
we're
fact.
Yeah.
not circumventing you, it's just that, like you say, a for sale sign comes up, and all of a sudden, you're out of the loop, that opportunity will never come by again.
There will probably be others too,
I
and
think so too.
I think maybe just,
I don't think we should go.
maybe
hunting.
just
Time and
keep,
discretion are the
maybe
essence
just keep
sometimes.
Chris in the loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think,
That I think.
thank you for saying that, David. I will say that there's, to be honest, there's been some frustration by members of the COSAC to not be somehow engaged in those projects or whatever. And certainly, as our ordinance and bylaws indicate, the council is the deciding factor. You don't need to engage us.
And sometimes we can't because it's confidential.
That's the big thing. We can't do it in a public meeting until, because then you can't do it till everything's signed.
I think that he could be invited to a.
I wondered about that, and I was gonna mention that later,
Yeah.
that if we,
That's what I think we would suggest, and what Claire was suggesting too, is, at least invite the chair to be a part of the meeting, just to be aware, right? Like, you're not asking us
I think
for,
he could be invited to the executive session to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did bring up COSAC in the executive session a couple times.
And there were times that I
So
asked
it
for
was on our
permission to
mind.
be able to call you and tell you
Yes.
some of the things that we discussed at that time.
which is great, and we appreciate all of that, and I think, I'll get less calls if I can say, hey, they've got, they're keeping us informed.
And I think it ended well, so
The
Yes.
chair,
we don't want to be a bottleneck.
No, we don't.
the chair could score it on the spot if that would help a decision
Oh,
from
yeah.
council.
okay, thank you.